monster mysteries. We tell the media there's no reason to panic, duh. It's just another weather balloon causing hysteria. We have a lot of fun in Area 51. We shot the smoking gun in Area 51. We flipped the magnetic poles, killed the dinosaurs with mind control. But nothing gets us hotter than a super collider spinning out of control. Yeah, we know the Earth is flat.
The Earth's not flat.
Maybe we killed Schrodinger's cat. The Illuminati come to all our parties wearing
I love this
flannel
song.
hats.
It's great.
We have a lot of fun.
That is Area 51 by actually Area 50 Fun by my dear friend Russ. That song just kills me every time. All right, so we're getting started up here a minute or two early just because I wanted to play the little song. Hopefully we don't have any reverb tonight. Again, I did not bring my headphones, so we'll see. I think everybody's here. Jody, are you here?
Yep, I'm here. Is Dave here?
I don't know if Dave is here or not.
Right.
I don't think he is. We can wait a couple of minutes. That's fine, as it'll take a few minutes for everybody to pop in and, you know, get ready for the show. So, Area 50 Fun. I love that song. Oh, we have a new subscriber in the chat. That's exciting. Thank you for subscribing recently. Have I had any luck with the Dogman? Any of us, have we had luck with Dogman yet? Dogman's out there. We're going to find him. That's the only luck we need, actually. Creepy little book. Thank you for popping in. Who all we got here? Waiting for the Boo Crew to show up. Again, we're just going to give everybody a few minutes to populate, and then we'll take off.
That will work.
Hopefully Dave pops in, too.
Yeah, he said he was going to be on. I've been texting him, so I hope he's not running late for work.
We'll give him a couple of minutes. How is everybody doing tonight? I see we have a bunch of people here. Ooh, that's intimidating. That's very intimidating. Now I actually have to be serious tonight, which is very difficult for me to do. I appreciate you all popping in. I hope you all had a great weekend. Did anybody get abducted by aliens? Anybody? Not me. I know how to avoid them. I did not get abducted by aliens. I always tell everybody at the end of the show, don't get abducted. So I just have to check in once in a while and see how it's going. Also, another thing I probably should throw out there is we are having a bad storm right now. So if I disappear, my power might go out. It tends to go out a lot here. If I disappear for some reason and the show gets ruined, we'll reschedule it. We'll try to redo it. I'm just hoping that we don't have any problems like that. I tend to have lots of technical difficulties for some reason, so we'll see. Any word from Dave at all?
No, I have been texting him. I mean, he sent a message earlier saying he was going to be here, so.
Yeah. Well, that is fine. Maybe he'll pop in later. He has the link, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Right.
Welcome back to another episode of Paranormally Correct. More specifically, the Paranormally Correct Monday Night Live YouTube stream. That is a mouthful. I'm your relentlessly strange host, Sara, as always, broadcasting to you live tonight from a small crevice deep inside the Sierra Nevada mountains. It's very cold in here. So how is everybody? I see that we have a whole bunch of new people that I haven't seen before. I'm still hoping that Cinder and the rest of the Boo Crew pop in. Maybe they're all running a little late tonight too. How are you doing tonight, Jody?
Doing good. Where are you at?
Oh, I always broadcast from a strange location, you know, somewhat related to the topic for the night.
Oh, yeah.
So tonight I'm in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Not really, but you know. I wish I was. I wish I was there.
Oh, you're just saying you are. Okay.
Oh, I'm just there. So I guess we'll just get started. We got a great show tonight. I have an awesome guest. Hopefully I'll have 2 awesome guests at some point very soon.
Yeah.
Before we get started with anything, I just want to take a moment and wish a happy birthday to my invisible co-host, who again tonight is invisible. He's not here right now. So happy birthday, invisible co-host Matthew. Happy birthday to the other ghosts and ghouls that may be out there celebrating a birthday at this time as well. We're not going to do paranormal news tonight because we got too much to talk about. So just to save us some time, we're going to skip that. Go over to the Facebook page. I posted some cool links there. And we'll get started talking about cryptids because I'm so excited about this. And there's so many cryptids. I had no idea how many cryptids are in the United States until today.
There's a lot.
Yeah. And I have like a huge list. I don't know which ones we can get to tonight. I don't know which ones we can't get to tonight. I mean, because there are so many. So I had some questions for Dave. I don't know if he's going to pop in. We'll go ahead and get started for anybody who's new here. Joedy, what was your very first cryptid experience, if you don't care to share that with us?
First cryptid experience. The first one, I mean, I've always been interested in it. I mean, you know, the Legend of Boggy Creek was like the thing that got into it. I remember going to seeing that at the movies and just fell in love with it. I was scared to death. You know, every time I took, you know, trash out as a kid, we had this cherry tree in our backyard, and it was dead, but it was kind of like this, where it looked like it had a head and 2 arms. And from my bedroom window, it was like right there. And I, you know, couldn't go to sleep at night because, you know, you always saw this thing. It's like the Boggy Creek monster outside there. But I've always been in, you know, love the monster stuff. You know, remember all the Bigfoot reports that were coming out in the 70s and the 80s. You know, I remember as a kid, you know, sitting in art class, I must have been like 6th grade. You know, we had a day we got to do UFOs, and we had a day we got to do like monster stuff, you know. And I remember, you know, doing the Bigfoot stuff. You know, it's just something I've always been into. But my first big thing in Bigfoot, I mean, cryptids was, you know, I had a Bigfoot sighting back in the 90s when I was in the Army up in Michigan, and there was 3 of us that you know, that saw it. So I remember that very clearly, you know, even to this day. And I never mentioned it for like 15 years, I think. And then when I wrote Traces of the Grassman, I told the story in there. You know, I left it out of my other books I did beforehand. But, you know, that's how I kind of told the story about it. So that was my really, I guess, if you want to say, first encounter with cryptids. But it was just something, you know, always did. I mean, even though when I did Bigfoot, you know, sightings or, you know, reports and everything in the, you know, 80s and 90s, going into 2000s, you know, I did other cryptid stuff because you would get the report, you know, and you would go investigate. I mean, here in Cincinnati, you know, like the Love and the Frogman's like, you know, less than, you know, half hour away. And, you know, that was something I did a lot of investigation on and talked to, you know, people about that. And then, you know, we just had, you know, the Defiance, Ohio case back in 72. And that was a good case. So there was a lot of stuff in Ohio, you know.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of stuff in Ohio. There's a lot of stuff in Kentucky. Kentucky's full of mysteries.
Yeah, you know, Kentucky, you know, it's like, you know, the beast of land between the lakes. The first time I heard about that was in 1987, you know, about the actual massacre that took place there. You know, it happened in the early 80s, but I heard about it from other law enforcement officers in 1987. So that was interesting. So, you know, I kind of, you know, I delved into a lot, you know, about the late 80s, early 90s. I mostly focused on Bigfoot, but you had to do other cryptids because you're just getting a lot of different reports coming in.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And now I assume that most people here tonight, since you were on the show before, probably remember, they probably know what you do. They probably know about North American Dogman Project. But how did you get into Dogman specifically? I know that you said you had never really had a sighting and you didn't want one. But what kind of drove you toward Dogman? And tell us a little bit about what you do.
You know, I always had a fascination with Dogman. like you said, even going back to 87 about the beast of land between the lakes. But throughout the, the 80s and 90s, they weren't a whole lot of sightings that were taking place. The biggest ones were the Michigan Dogman or Wisconsin Beast of Bray Road, or the LBL stuff. And that was it. And you very seldom got a lot of stuff out of there. So as time was going into, the 2000s and stuff, it started to peak up. The Dogman stuff has. And, the Bigfoot field, I kind of stepped out of that because it's a clique. I mean, it's so, it got so commercialed, and that it got to the point if you didn't have the right last name, or if you weren't a member of a certain organization, you weren't getting a speaking gig at any conference or anything like that. It just turned out to be a clique, and I just got really tired of it. And so I felt, I'm going to start doing the Dogman stuff. And then, as I was doing the Dogman stuff, I'm going back looking at all my reports from like the 70s and the 80s, and all these reports about Bigfoot that had like a snout, or the legs were kind of funny on it, or it had high pointed ears. And, at the time, you don't really think about it as a Dogman. You just think, well, maybe this is a different type of a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And then going back looking at these reports, these are Dogman sightings that people are having, because the whole description, like you said, the snout, the high pointed ears and things. And the biggest thing, like through the 80s and 90s rather, was this slew of Bigfoot reports that were coming in all over the country where the Bigfoot had a protrude snout. And it was like, man, this is a new species of Bigfoot. And it was a new species of Bigfoot. This was Dogman that people.
Right. It was Dogman all along. And I think Dogman flies under the radar like that, because that kind of happened to me too, as you probably know. Some of our new viewers may not know, but I had an experience years ago, and I had no idea what it was. I thought for years maybe it was an alligator, but it turned out that I fully believe it was a Dogman now. And I think there are tons of cases that people are going to discover in the near future to possibly have been Dogman instead of another type of cryptid or another type of Bigfoot.
Well, even the BFRO, even has reports on their site that could possibly be Dogman, and they're not even keeping it up. I mean, the thing with the BFRO, they're like telling their people. We have, our organization has BFRO members, and they're telling the BFRs, oh guys, if you get a Dogman report, ignore it. Don't tell us, don't put it on our site or anything. And it's just like, you should put it on there, because if not, turn it over to somebody else that's willing to look at it and get a real thorough look on it. And a lot of these Bigfoot organizations, especially the KBRO in Kentucky, they're looking into the Dogman stuff because it's something you just can't ignore. It's definitely, there's something to it.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. And it kind of got me thinking when I was researching some of the other cryptids, some of the lesser known cryptids that we're going to talk about tonight. It's like, how many of those might actually be Dogman? So, of course, I'm just so excited about Dogman. I think everything's a Dogman anymore. But
I tell you what, it's the most fascinating subject. It's the new cryptid. It's the it's the big thing. I saw this thing today on Facebook that says, people are more in love with vampires than they are werewolves and stuff. And that's bull crap. It's just the girls. They love it.
I love werewolves.
I hate like in the, these movies where they portray the, the werewolves of these, guys that are a bunch of Greek, hairy and, worn out guys and stuff like that, like in, Underworld or, City of Bones and stuff. It's like the waste of the alley or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not, leave them guys alone, Christ. And, the vampires are the ones that has the nice hair, the clean shaven, the cute eyes. And
yeah. So getting into the cryptids, what do you think skunk ape is? Do you think that's a Bigfoot, or you think maybe that could be a Dogman type creature?
No, skunk ape is something completely different. See, here's the thing. If you look at the United States as a whole, okay, there's probably 3 different types of Bigfoot. Okay. You have the Eastern Bigfoot, which is normally, between 6 and 7 feet. He's a highly aggressive, very stocky, around 400 pounds. Then you have your Western Bigfoot, like out in, California, Oregon, Washington State, British Columbia, which is much bigger, anywhere from 8 to 10 feet. And the farther north you go into Canada, there's legends that he's up to 12 feet. Now in Canada, he's a little bit more aggressive. They consider him being a cannibal. Okay. But the Western Bigfoot is more docile, meaning that, he's not going to go look for human contact, and he'll hide from human contact. The Eastern Bigfoot's a little bit different. He sees you, he's going to let you know he's there. And that's the difference. Now, when you look at the skunk ape, skunk ape's different. I mean, he's, around 6, 7 feet, maybe 300 pounds. And there are different varieties of it. You have your 3 toes and you have your 4 toes. And this is a completely different, he's probably more ape than, the Eastern and Western Bigfoot is. Yeah. And I look at Bigfoot as I would look at, the canine species. Canine is a species, but they're different breeds of dogs. Okay, so Bigfoot, same thing. He's, a Bigfoot species, but they're different breeds of him, I think, just like the human species. We don't call them breeds, we call them races. You have your Caucasian, you have your Black, your Hispanics, your Asians. We're all the same people, but we're a different race of people. Same thing with Bigfoot. And when you look at the different Bigfoots and, Russia, China, South America, Eastern Europe and things like that, they're all different. They all have their different characteristics. And I, think that, more like the Yeti is probably an ape than he is of anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that really interests me too, is the fact that, like, Yetis and the skunk ape, it seems like we don't hear about them as much as we do maybe, just normal Bigfoot in, California, Northern California or something like that. Why do you think we don't hear as much about skunk ape?
The skunk ape, like the Falk monster and the skunk ape in Florida, those are hometown monsters. That stuff stays within the community. They keep it within the community, so they don't go out and express it to the world, because they don't want all these people coming down there and trampling through their backyard looking for these things. So right. They'll keep it to themselves, and you'll find out with a lot of these cryptids, that's normal, for them to completely keep it to themselves, where it's like the, dirty little secret of the family type thing.
Yeah.
And things. And that's when it comes to like the Falk monster and the skunk ape. To me, like I said, that's, it's just something that stays there. And only time it ever gets out, if someone, who's not a local is down there, sees it or hears about it or reports on it, then you hear about it.
Yeah, I definitely can see that.
Yeah, there's a lot more sightings than what you think, what's taking place down here. But like I said, it's staying within, the communities.
Yeah. And I know a story that kind of goes along with that too, that my grandfather used to tell about some weird type of creature, possibly even a cryptid, something that nobody could identify, that they call gravedigger. And it was white. This kind of made me think it was an albino dogman for some reason. But it was a fairly small creature that would go around and dig in graves. And people had seen it. And this was way back, probably 60 years ago or somewhere thereabouts. So, it wasn't anything recent. But I was always fascinated by this. And there's nothing online about it. But of course, it was in one town in West Virginia. So
we just got a video. It's been on Facebook a couple of times, but we, talked to the people that, that actually took the video of this small little creature digging in a grave up in Akron. And it's weird looking. It's got these like long fingers and stuff. And, these 2 young girls, one of them had their child with them. They went and picked a friend up and they went and sat at the cemetery to go eat lunch. And it was something that they do, and they see this thing digging, and it's like, it's really weird looking. You know, I've got the video, I'll send it to you, but it's really odd, you know, and, you know, they hauled ass, man. It's like me, I would have got out the car. I would have, you know, I would have said, what is this? I would have my phone, you know, because I'm one of these people that, you know, I'll go up to it. I don't care. I'll be the first person killed by a Dogman or a Bigfoot or whatever cryptid, you know, because I'm wanting to go see what this thing is, you know. And, you know, what's so odd was that the grave was, you know, cleaned back up and put back over. And it was just a small little, like, burial box of, like, the remains of, you know, the guy from being cremated. But this thing dug down like 2.5 feet. Why did it dig into this grave? A normal person would not have done it. And if you see the video, this is not human that did this. And, you know, there's a wood line right there. And you know, the people in the cemetery, they know, because it's not like the first time it's happened.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. That makes me think maybe it's something related to what my grandfather saw all those years ago.
I mean, you know, the thing of it is, you know, I mean, if it, you know, if it was a Bigfoot and you sit there and wonder why, you know, maybe I think like Bigfoot mimics humans. You know, they see us bury our dead, and they probably bury their dead too. And maybe this thing was burying a small child, a Bigfoot child or something, or Dogman child or whatever, you know, in that grave, you know, and that's what it was doing. I mean, anything's possible.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And that's kind of a spooky thought too.
I you know, I've got a picture of a Bigfoot in a graveyard digging, and the cemetery, the last person buried in the cemetery was like in the late 1800s. So it's like a really old cemetery, and you have to walk up these stone steps to get there. And this is here in Cincinnati. And a friend of ours, she, you know, does photography, and she went out and she likes to go to cemeteries and start taking pictures. And she came on top of the steps, and she's seen this thing. She said it was like a gorilla, you know, just digging there. So she snapped a picture and ran. And you see, you know, the head and the arm. And what's neat about the arm digging, it's got that bushy hair like a gorilla would on the forearm. And you can see, you know, the air really well in the face where this thing is digging. And it's weird, you know. And there's lots and lots of reports of Bigfoot in cemeteries, being seen in cemeteries.
Yeah, and same thing with Dogman too. Wasn't the Beast of Bray Road case on or near a cemetery?
There was a case in Wisconsin where a Dogman was seen digging in a Indian mound. They have an Indian mound that they keep kind of like protected, and this was back in I think like the 1830s or 1930s maybe, and digging, and you know, people saw this thing digging in there. So I mean, we got reports. I've got like 3 reports from 3 different people who don't know each other from 3 different locations in the United States that has seen wolf-like creatures in cemeteries wearing cloaks.
Wow.
Yeah, which is odd, and you know, these people are really sincere, you know, and they were always seen in 2s, and that's the weird thing, and they're wearing like gray cloaks, and the body, you know, it's like human, and the head's like a wolf. You know, and it's like, you have to think to yourself, I mean, is this some type of ritual that's going all around the country, you know, or are these really some type of cryptid that's, you know, trying to pass for being human?
Yeah, that's so weird. It's like a cryptid who's into fashion.
or something, or they're wearing cloaks, you know, to, you know, like I said, hide themselves from being who they are, so people think that they're human. Anything's possible, but when you have 3 stories like that over, you know, a few year period from different people in different parts of the country, it's you have to take a look at it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. There could be something to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that I talk about here on the channel all the time. It's like the more people who have witnessed something or experienced something, the more it seems like the experience becomes validated and seems more truthful, because, all these people from all these different places can't be telling the same story for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. Is people. A lot of people, they really don't have anything to gain from telling a story.
Yeah.
You can always pick out the bullshit artists. You can always pick them out. But most people, aren't going to come forward and embarrass themselves just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's definitely something to think about too. I mean, a lot of people I know are kind of shy about telling stories like that, or they stray away from it for whatever reason, whether they think people will assume that they're crazy or, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've always been really open about my experiences, so of course I can't relate. But yeah, definitely. It really says something when they come forward with that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So along the lines of like Bigfoot and skunk ape and things like that, do you think that there are any other realistic, possibly real creatures similar to those creatures? Or do you think that it's just kind of stops at Bigfoot and goes into a totally different animal?
Repeat that again.
Sorry about that.
No, we're getting that storm right now. So
yeah, we're gonna get blown away tonight. So do you think that, because I know you said there are different types of Bigfoot, do you think that there are other cryptid creatures out there that have been possibly given a different name, but maybe also fit in that family, besides like skunk ape and Yeti and things like that?
As far as other people seeing other cryptids, and where it could be possible Bigfoot or a possible Dogman, I can't really say. When people give their description of what they've seen of a Bigfoot and a Dogman, it's pretty much what it is. Now there are different, varieties of Dogman. That's where people have seen them. You have some that look very much like a hyena. You have some that looks very, skinny type, but extremely large pointed ears. But they're all have the canine characteristics to them. I mean, there's some that, people reported said look like kangaroos, but you have to look at this, when you look at animals such as Dogman or Bigfoot, you have to think about this. They're not like humans where when we're born, we get the shots that, save us from, different diseases and things like that. We eat healthy, we have, an environment that protects us, our home and things like that. These animals don't, you have to think about the mortality rate of their offsprings. You have to sit there and think about, do they get distemper? Do they get rabies? Do they, catch the flu or catch the cold? If you're out in the woods and you're cold, you have a cold, or coming out the flu and you're sneezing and they're in an area, are they going to catch it? And what is the mortality rate of that?
Yeah, I've never actually thought about that before, but you would think that Bigfoot and Dogman specifically would kind of be prone to the same things that we're prone to as well.
I mean, it's like you take the gorillas, in Africa, when you see these videos where people are going out, and looking at them. Well, before those people go out, they get their temperature taken. They have blood work sometimes to make sure that, they don't have, some type of disease, or they're not carrying a virus or, the flu or cold, because they're not going to let them out there, because the gorillas can catch that stuff. They can catch the cold, they can catch a flu, and it's more harmful for them because they're not protected like we are, through immunizations and stuff. So, and you have to look at it like that with a Bigfoot and a Dogman, especially Dogman with distemper or possible rabies, getting in a fight with, a coyote or getting, or eating, an animal that had rabies. But there again, their senses are probably different, so they probably wouldn't, do that. But, you have to take all that stuff into consideration.
Yeah, that's true. And if a dogman is not bad enough, a dogman with rabies would be probably the most horrifying thing. And we actually had someone in the comments who had an interesting comment here. It says, "I've been told that my .357 revolver isn't powerful enough to hurt a dogman. Any thoughts?"
Well, we have a guy on our team by the name of David Lady, okay, who was on the show Terror in the Woods, and he shot one point blank twice in the chest with the .357, and it didn't do anything to this thing. And this is what I believe, okay? You have the rib cage and you have like the sternum, okay? The main bone that goes up and down. I believe that they have one which is much larger, where it's much larger out and extremely thick, kind of like a pit bull skull, and and the reason why it does that, because I think it protects the organs, and it can take a shot very well and not harm the animal. There's actually a case that we're working on right now where, a guy on his property, he's seeing these things, and, he heard something in his barn. So he goes out to his barn. Okay. And he has a shotgun with him. And as he's looking around, he sees a pair of paws hanging off the top part of the barn. Okay. And so the door that's on top of the barn that you bring the hay up into and put the hay on top, he, pulls the rope to open that. The thing jumps down on him. He said he shot this thing with buckshot, point blank. And he said he saw the piece of the skin just literally hang off of it. He said the thing ran. A week later, he said he's out in the woods and he sees this thing staring at him. And it's the same one he shot.
Wow.
This guy, I believe this guy, we've had a team out there investigate, talk to him. I don't see any reason why this guy would tell a story. He sounds extremely sincere, about it. And just his whole detail of the description of this creature is just unbelievable. But yeah, he said a week later he seen the same thing, that same one he shot. So, maybe they got tough skin. I don't think it's anything supernatural or anything like that, but I just, it's just, it's scary knowing that,
They seem to be pretty tough. I've heard a lot of stories where people say they've shot them with shotguns and, all sorts of other different sizes of guns and ammo, and it didn't do anything. And then also for the people who haven't heard my Dogman story, I keep telling it, surely to God, everybody's heard it. But if you haven't, me and a friend actually ran over a Dogman in a Mustang with all 4 tires. We hit it really hard going about 55, 60 miles an hour, and it ran away. So apparently they can get shot and get completely, totally run over and survive.
I've talked to people that has hit them. Literally hit them. They're up in Akron, Ohio. We have a drawing where, one went out in front of the road and the woman hit it, and this thing was upright running across the road when she hit it. And it just threw it back. He got up and ran, so, maybe they're just so muscular and they can take a hit. It's kind of like, the Cro-Magnon man, or the Neanderthal rather, where his body is just so well formed for the environment and for the kill that he can take a blow and he can survive that kind of stuff. And maybe that's how they are. They can take it and they can survive.
Yeah, apparently so. Hopefully we never have to find out.
Yeah, hopefully we will.
Well, yeah, touche.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the state of Ohio, because I know there are a lot of crazy things going up there, and you've mentioned some cryptid type creatures before. So what is another really interesting cryptid that comes to mind from Ohio?
Oh, well, the Loveland Frogman is probably one of the best known, and it's really interesting. The first sighting came in like 1955. We have a castle here in Loveland that this guy built by hand, and it's beautiful castle. It's along the river there, and he always talked about how when he built this castle, this frogman would always sit there and watch him build it. Never bothered him or anything like that, but he would always see it, you know. And the neat thing about this, in 1972, a police officer, a Lebanon police officer, was going down the road and he saw it along the guardrail. And he gets out and the thing's standing there and he discharges his weapon on it. And you know, and there was a second police officer that did the same thing. Both encounters with the police where they both discharged their weapons on different occasions. But ever since the 70s, I can't recall any more sightings that people have had of the frogman. So I don't know, was he killed by the police, or is this something that he just died off? He was just one of a kind type thing, a mutant or something. Who knows? And when a big Pokemon crave was happening a few years ago, there was a guy that took a picture of this thing with glowing eyes and in the water and stuff. It says, "Look, I was looking for a Pokemon. I got the Loveland Frog, which is a hoax picture anyhow." But but I can't recall, and I've been looking for more and more reports on it. But I just haven't found anything. Like I said, this is another thing too, where Loveland, that's their baby, and it stays within the neighborhood. It's one of the things.
I definitely think that we should have more frogman sightings because I personally love frogs. I can't believe they shot at a frogman. Frogs are so nice. They're good people.
Well, back in the 70s, you have to understand some, the mentality of police, they shoot and ask questions like us. I mean, they see something that's, and you have to understand police also, okay? They have to look at the safety and well-being of the community. And if they felt it was a threat, they do what they do, But, they didn't have dash cams at the time. You don't have cell phones. You'd have cameras and stuff on you. So it's not like today where you could just pull your cell phone out and took a picture of the thing. So
God, I wish they had the dash cams when they found the frog. That would be amazing.
that would have been neat. That would have been neat. I would have loved it.
So I know you mentioned something. Are they called melon heads?
Yeah, the Kirkland melon heads and stuff. Yeah, that's a big legend in Ohio here that's been going around for like a long time. And they actually do tours out in Kirkland, around the area there. You walk this tour and things of where the orphanage used to be and where the crime bridge is, and all this other little areas around there where the graveyard, where Dr. Crow is buried and things. So you get to see all that neat stuff out there on the tour. And it's again, it's one of these things that is a legend. There's truth to the story, and then there's legend. Okay. And it's one of these things, like I said, that just blew up, went from one person to the next person to the next person. And it's an interesting story about these kids that were in an orphanage. The doctor was doing an experiment with these children, putting different fluids and stuff in their heads. And, a lot of people felt that, he was, working for the federal government, and they were, doing these tests on these children for the government, putting like radiation, and things like that into these kids' heads, look at the effect of the brains and things like that. And the heads were swelling and growing, and the kids were kept in cages. And his wife, was a very good, loving person. She loved the kids. She didn't like what he was doing, but, she was the wife. And at that time of period, the wife did what the husband told her to do. and she died. But the rumor is that he killed her. You know, she apparently slipped and, you know, busted her head open and died. But apparently, what, like I said, the story is that they believe that he killed her, and the children got so upset about this that they revolted against Dr. Crow and burnt the orphanage to the ground, and they went and lived off in, you know, the woods. And there's been stories like in Florida where people were seeing the melon heads down there, and there were stories that they would end up at circuses and sideshows and things like that just to survive. You know, and Maryland, there's been sightings of them in Maryland also. So, you know, did Dr. Crow die in the fire, or did he get out and he kept on with his experiments, you know, in Maryland and in Florida and some of these other, you know, states where these sightings are taking place? You know, was he a hired, you know, government agent doing work for the government, experiment on children? I mean, who knows? You know, and that's what makes it that so fascinating. There are just so many little quirks and turns and twists about this whole thing. It's just, it's neat. It's a really good story. You know.
Yeah, and it's creepy too, because everybody sees kids as, you know, innocent angels and just such, you know, everybody likes kids. So to think of kids in such a, you know, kind of a macabre way,
right,
I think disturbing for most people. There are a lot of stories out there about different types of weird kids, like the green kids. I don't know much about them, but allegedly they're aliens.
right.
Then the black-eyed children. And I don't know if kid monsters fit into the cryptid realm, but they kind of seem like they do.
You know, when it comes to the black-eyed, you know, kids, I think that's more in the realm of, you know, the supernatural and demons, you know, with a lot of that, because it's one of these things where they don't hurt you, you know, because they ask you, can they come in? Can they get in your car? Can they get in your house? And the minute you let them in, it's kind of like the vampire type thing. The minute you welcome them in, you're doomed.
Yeah.
You know? So it's you know, these stories are fascinating. This is what I love about, you know, the cryptids and the supernatural. These really odd, quirky little stories, you know, and it's just not in one area. I mean, everybody around the country is experiencing, you know, all this stuff, and that's what I love about this world. It's just so strange, you know. I mean, it's where they're just, you know, like lake monsters and, you know, some of these other, you know, cryptids and stuff like that, you know, could have been dinosaurs, you know, that's, you know, especially lake monsters, you know, still existing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of them in the United States. It seems like all large bodies of water have their own monster.
I did this research, and like I said, I don't have a globe with me, but if you look at the latitude, what goes around. If you look at, you know, the latitude where all the lake monsters are going from Japan, going to Turkey, to the United States, Canada, you know, and Europe and stuff, they all fall within the same latitude of each other, you know, which is odd. And they're all within this realm. And you have to sit there and think about, you know, are they caverns that go, you know, under earth, you know, under ocean, things like that, to different parts of the, you know, the other continents? And are these things the same creature that might have been seen in, you know, Turkey, has been seen in Japan, or seen in Ogopogo, you know, like, you know, Champagne, you know, whatever, you know, could they be the same creatures, you know? But the thing of it is, each of these things are all different characteristics. You know, some of them have long necks. Some of them are just more like a snake, you know, type body. You know, could it be something natural? Could they just be big fish? I mean, who knows? You know, we know more about space than we know what's in our ocean. So the possibility of something surviving and us not seeing it or noticing it is, you know, a greater chance than us probably seeing alien life form.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've discovered like what 5% of the ocean
Mhm.
in the world. So there's probably Kraken. There's probably all sorts of crazy things. Cthulhu's.
Well, they know they're Kraken, but I mean, are they, are them, much larger Krakens? There's this case where they tagged a great white shark, and they were able to monitor in it. Okay, and it they found out where this thing went. Like, what's the story? He went so far down in the ocean at a quicker pace than normal, that where the great white never should be in the first place, and never was ever seen, going that far down. And it was a huge one. And what they think is that something much larger ate this great white and submerged further down, to the bottom of the depth,
Oh,
and it was
yeah, I've heard that story actually, and I've heard some theories that maybe it was a megalodon.
megalodon. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's stories that they're finding megalodon teeth washing ashore in Australia. I mean, and these aren't fossil teeth, so anything's possible, that, a large shark, or, a sea serpent, or, any type of, prehistoric, creature can exist, that we just don't know about. There's so many different stories out there about different type of, sea serpents that, people are seeing. That, I mean, there's alleged satellite photographs, of large serpents that, they were just bigger than what they should be.
Yeah. Well, I personally am a huge fan of the Loch Ness Monster. And apparently the United States has quite a few competitor monsters to the Loch Ness Monster, and just a few on my list here. I'll read off a couple of them. Maybe you've heard of them. And I'm probably not going to pronounce these names right. I don't know. We'll see. The Ilimna lake monster. I'm guessing maybe that's like a Native American word. I'm not sure. And then we have like Chessie, which of course is a play on the name Nessie.
Yeah,
there's the Alkali Lake Monster, the Bear Lake Monster, Flathead Lake Monster. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's so many. It seems like every large body of water has some sort of creature in it.
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating. It's like, for the Chessie, that's from Chesapeake Bay, creature, that there have been a lot of sightings on that. And the other one, is it Altamania? Is that what you said?
I think I do have that one on the list as well. Yeah.
That's, I'm trying to think. That's the one from Dartland, Georgia, I think.
Yeah.
It's been seen in Georgia. I'm trying to think because there's so many. I don't want to get them confused. I know that one has been seen. There's there've been sightings of it. Where it's it's dark. It's had, I think, 2 humps. A lot of people have stated that it's had 2 humps. There's a fish town. Dartland, Georgia, the fish town, where it was mostly been seen. I think the first sighting of that was like in 1960, is when that one first came about. For that one there. See, a lot of these, these creatures, have been seen, throughout, like the 20s and 30s, so like going up into the 50s for like the biggest time these things were seen. And it's, more people got out on the, the ocean. It seems like it's pushing this thing away.
Yeah.
Because there's so much traffic and stuff that's out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can't forget Tahoe Tessie. I thought that was kind of the coolest one on the list. Tahoe Tessie.
Yeah.
There's a play on the name Loch Ness, Nessie.
Yeah, Tahoe.
I think there's a lot of evidence of that one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that one's kind of neat because that one, I mean, he's between, the sightings of that has been between 20 and like, 60 feet, and Lake Tahoe is like 20 miles long, 20 miles wide, and it has, depths up to, 1,600 feet, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, so anything can live in that lake there, and you have to, I mean, some of these lake monsters, can probably be, large sturgeons,
Yeah, that's what I read is people think maybe they're sturgeons
or some type of a large fish, who knows? I mean, they probably eat the garbage off the bottom of the ocean. They keep feeding. I mean, we have here Markland Dam, okay? And the Markland Dam, when it opens up, it pushes all the water out. And there was something blocking it. So they had a dive team go down and figure out what was blocking all, the water and stuff was coming through there. And they said there's these two large catfish that were about, 20 feet. And they said their eyes were about as large, as a light, headlight on a car.
I've actually heard a similar story in the Ohio River.
Yeah. And they said these things were just so big and fat, and they would lay there when the dam opens. That's how they fed, and it scared the hell out of them, So anything's possible, it could just be a large fish that just eats all those smaller fish and just eats the garbage, the algae or whatever, plus half the pollutions that's in some of this. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't know, the Loch Ness Monster I'm pretty much sold on. Other types of water cryptids, I don't know, but I've always thought that the Loch Ness Monster was probably the plesiosaur or plesiosaurus, whichever one they call it nowadays. I mean, I think that one makes pretty good sense, but it's so hard to tell with water creatures. I tend to focus more on land creatures because we can see them more easily, obviously, and more frequently.
Right. Well, the thing of it is it's like if the Loch Ness Monster is a plesiosaur, or some type of prehistoric creature that survived, okay, he's not going to look the same as he did 65 million years ago. It's the same thing like Makilabimbe in the Congo, which is supposed to be like a large brontosaurus or a brachiosaurus, but he's actually smaller, So the creature's only going to grow as big as the environment lets him grow. And like the Congo was so closed, that, these things could have survived instead hidden. And there's really, the fact when the meteor hit and it allegedly killed all these animals, we don't know if they were all killed. Any of them could have survived, I don't think everything was destroyed. I think some of these were able to survive and they were able to adapt, like in the Congo, there's stories in the Everglades, of, dinosaurs there, stories. So anything is possible, that these things could have survived. But like I said, it's just, they adapt to the environment and they're going to be the same, but they're not going to be the same as they were 65 million years ago.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that adaptation does happen. I necessarily don't believe in evolution. Everybody knows that here. I talk a lot about biblical stuff and things like that. So, but it's funny too, from a secular point of view on cryptids and from a biblical worldview, which I have on cryptids, we both kind of come to the same conclusion. One, the most important probably being as far as water cryptids go. Any type of destruction on the earth, whether it's a secular or biblical view, the water creatures could have survived. Of course, biblically would be the flood, and then secularly would be the Big Bang Theory,
right?
Which would primarily affect land. Both of those things would affect land animals, but not as much water animals.
I look at the biblical part too. I mean, my father, he is still a Episcopalian minister. I'm Catholic. My mother was Catholic, and she raised me and my brother Catholic, and growing up, we went to both churches, see my dad preach, and went to the Catholic Church. And, the religion's all the same when it comes to, like the flood. And really and people, when they talk about the flood didn't go over the whole world. I mean, it went to just certain parts of it, but it's in every single culture, but it didn't cover the whole complete planet, what they think. And so that's why I'm saying a lot of this stuff could have survived. A lot of these animals, There were sea creatures could have been brought in through the flood into certain of parts of these area. But anything's possible. I mean, when you look at the Bible even talks about strange creatures. In the Bible that can be referred as dinosaurs. And all through any culture. Like the dragons, in the medieval times, and then you have the dragons in, China. And if you look at all these different cultures around the world, they all have dragons. Even South America. So how could all these different cultures who had no communication or contact with each other, have the same type of creature that they're in their history? And
absolutely.
Did dragons actually exist, or were dragons actually dinosaurs?
I tend to believe that they were dinosaurs, and I know there are some Christians out there who don't think that dinosaurs existed. I mean, I guess just like, there are flat earthers and things like that, which I'm neither of those categories. I guess I would define my biblical view as like biblical truther. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Baptist. I'm a biblical truther. And when you factor that stuff in, and I know not everybody in the comments watching this video is going to agree, but when you factor in at least just Genesis, there's a whole new outlook on creatures, hybrid creatures and things like that, which I've talked about here before, with Nephilim and genetic manipulation and things like that, which is probably a story for another video. But yeah, there's so much in there. There's definitely dinosaurs in the Bible. There are lots of creatures mentioned in the Bible that could possibly relate to things that we call cryptids now.
Exactly. So, and that's what's so interesting about it. You just have an open mind, have an open mind about it.
Definitely.
So
I see that we have a little sidebar conversation going on in the comments here about whether or not Dogman is dangerous, or if he is aggressive, or if he is more of a passive kind of guy.
No.
I'm going to answer that one. I think Dogman's aggressive. I think he'll come after you.
He's an apex predator, and just about every report we have where people has had contact with Dogman is that he has always been the initiator.
Yeah.
Okay. Always have been the initiator. And here's the interesting thing about this. When, like Dave Lady's case, for example, with these being, apex predators, they're honestly, and I've heard this through a lot of different people on their sightings, where they look at them as like raptors. The one will always be there where you can have a clear shot of him, and he lets you know he's there, while another one is flanking you either from behind or on the side. And that's what happened with Dave on his case. The one was there, let him see it, and he was able, to get a good look at him. And that's when the other one just came out from the side there, and he was able to discharge his weapon, on it. And like I said, we have a lot of different cases where the same thing has happened, where they would see one, make himself notice, and the other one just boom comes right on out, where they're able to see it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting theory. I've heard a lot of people say that, he hunts in packs, or that he can hunt with others and do things like that. And also personally, from just what I've observed throughout stories and reports and things like that, I think that he kind of toys with his prey sometimes as well. I think he's a little bit mischievous, to say the least.
We're working on a case here in Ohio where this guy has a cabin, and this thing is literally toying with him. He's out there, and he's scratching the trees, marking the trees around his cabin. He's taking frontal bites out of the tree. Okay, he's scratching the side of his house. He's scratching like the porch, the railings and stuff on the porch of the cabin. It's like he's letting him know he's there. He's got audio of this thing growling and scraping on the door and stuff. And he said this thing is awesome. It's been throwing like rocks at his house. So he's got this video that he set a video up, you know, to watch the house, the security video. And this thing, you see, there's like another trailer that's sitting there, and the light's kind of like on it on one side, and you have the camera right here, and you see where this thing is walking in, and you see the shadow go up against the trailer. Okay, I mean, it's a canine's head. I mean, it's really, I mean, you see this thing, so it's walking. You don't see it, but you see the shadow the whole time on the trailer and on the ground, and you see the tail moving. This thing's walking upright, but you see the tail flapping, which is really weird. And it goes up to his back door. Okay. And you see the tail continue to wave on the shadow on the ground. And then all of a sudden you see it peek over the doorway, and then it goes back.
Oh, God.
It's really, this guy, I mean, what he does, he writes the music for video games. Okay. And he goes to his cabin so he can do his work. And he said this thing has just been tormenting the hell out of him. He's finding these large canine tracks. You know, this thing is, like I said, is taking frontal bites out of trees, scratch marks. You know, he letting them know that it's there. He's got audio and everything. You know, and there's just literally tormenting this guy. You know. So we haven't had a chance to get fully out there. You know, I mean, we interviewed him in person, but the site and stuff, he's kind of leery of getting us out to the site right now. Basically, he's more worried about our safety than he is his, you know, because he hasn't been out there in a while. So we're trying to get him to, you know, take us out there to take us, but we've seen all the evidence, you know, the pictures and the videos and everything like that. But he just, you know, he just don't want to go out there.
Yeah. Well, I want to go if you ever get to go.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be there with my camera.
Yeah, that's what we said. We're like, we'll stay out there. You know, we'll put trail cams all the way up, and you know, we'll keep an eye on it. You know. So,
yeah, it's amazing. I would love to experience something like that because I have such limited experience with cryptids. I mean, you know, I have like possibly one Dogman experience, and then I saw a leprechaun one time, but I don't know if I don't know if that's a cryptid or not. We'll say not.
Yeah, some of the leprechaun, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just something that happens to Irish people. It's just like, you know, a little.
Well,
there's a little Irish magic.
Here's the thing, you know. It may not have been a leprechaun. It could have been a pudwedgie.
Good point.
You know, and see, a lot of people they see these pudwedgies, and that's one of the things they think that it's you know, maybe it's a leprechaun or something like that, you know, but it's a pudwedgie. And you know, we have out here in Indiana, there's Mount State Park, where there's a lot of, even up to this summer, they have had sightings of pudwedgies in that park. And the Native Americans put 10 different monuments all around that park to wear out, you know, the evil pudwedgies, and it's not working. You know?
So tell us about this. What kind of creature are we talking about here?
The pudwedgie is a small, like, little creature, you know, humanoid creature, very small, more demon-like. He's been known to set people's tents on fire while they're in there, set their property on fire. Like when they go out for a hike, they would tear their property apart. And, you know, Mount State Park they'll tell you, I mean, every employee has seen these things there. People who camp and go on the hikes there have seen them and been chased out of the park. They said they're like real little people, about a foot high, you know, and
wow.
Like spears and stuff. And I mean, just some crazy, you know, crazy shit, man. Some of the stories, and like I said, even up to this past summer, they've had, you know, sightings out there, and, you know, and these people are serious as a heart attack, man. I'm telling you, because like I said, when you go there and you look at the park, seriously, Native Americans, they put these monuments in there to wear them out. It's just like they have to have, you know, the Native Americans come in to do these rituals and stuff. to try to cleanse the park, and it just isn't doing any good. Because the Pudwedgie has always been something that had been also part of Native American culture, where they have dealt with them. And there's like 2 places in the whole country that is that deals with this. Is Mount St. Park in Indiana, and the what the heck is that? The Pine Barrens, and up there in New Jersey, where the Jersey Devil is. There've been a lot of sightings of Pudwedgies there. And there was a story where a guy was walking his dog, and he seen one on the road, and it was talking to him, and he was saying something. He didn't realize what it was, and he finally figured out what it was. It was telling him to come here, come here. It's just like, his dog was freaking and stuff. And there's a lot of stories like that, and it's a fascinating little creature. And this is why I always tell people, if they're really into this stuff, there's a book here. It's called Monster Spotter's Guide to North America. If you find this book on Amazon, and if you like to travel, it tells you every single cryptid in every single state, and it gives you a whole, storyline about the cryptid. And it's great for kids. I didn't write it. Some other guys wrote it, but I love the book.
Yeah, I want to check that book out. That sounds really interesting.
And you can probably find it at a half price books.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably one of the best places to find it. But I mean, it has Pudwedgies in there. It talks about them in there. But I love that whole Pudwedgie thing, because it's just, when we went to the park to check it out, we talked to some people that were there, and they were telling us, I mean, even that day we were there, there were sightings.
Wow, that makes me want to go right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're saying, they'll find like little footmarks, footprints and stuff, like on their cars, where they were like on people's cars and stuff. I mean, it's just like people are coming back, finding their tents, on fire. And I mean, just some crazy stuff. I mean, it's weird. It's kind of like Point Pleasant, West Virginia. When you get into the town, you feel the heaviness on you. And that's what it's like in that park. You feel it. You feel that there's something there. There's some evil in that park, and it's like one of these things where, where they tell people to, don't go off trail. Don't go off trail. So, and everybody in that area knows about them, and and the weird thing is, it's not like people are flocking there. They're not. Because it's one of these things. Oh yeah, we know about the Pudwedgies. 2 more eggs, please, or some crap like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just something that everybody knows about. And but you and I, we go there, and it's like we're like kids in a candy shop. And they laugh at us, and it's like, you don't want this. Trust me. It's the same thing. Well, it's like down in Land Between the Lakes. People down there were telling us, don't stay at the local hotels. Don't tell people that you're from out of town, and things. I mean, they actually believe that there's a pack of werewolves. I mean, I'm talking werewolves, not Dogman, but werewolves, where just this family bloodline goes into the woods there and feast on people, and it's like, and there's people in the community that will back that story up down there, and that's why they tell you, don't stay at the local hotels. So, don't tell people, because you'll come up missing.
Wow, that's pretty spooky.
It's some pretty scary stuff down there. I mean, when you talk about Land Between the Lakes, I mean, they really believe that, there's family members that actually transform into werewolves that go in that park and feast on animals. And if they feast on a human, they feast on a human,
Wow.
Yeah, some weird shit.
So what other kinds of cryptids do we have that are similar to the Pudwedgies or Pudwedgies Any little mean creatures out there besides them?
The Pugwedgies are the only ones that I know of. You have your evil gnomes. You ever heard about the evil gnomes and stuff?
I've heard of garden gnomes taking over, but that's about it.
They're supposed to be like little evil gnomes out there. There's actually there've been quite a few stories, about them harassing families and things like that. When I did the show Mystery Monsters in America, they actually had a whole segment on this family that was being harassed by this gnome that was living in the shed by their house. And, it just got to a point the family just got horrified and left. And there was a cryptid researcher that was doing research and, was talking with the one witness and found out there was another witness that lived in that house, that same house that was dealing with the same thing. And she left. And then apparently they went back to check it out. And the new homeowner tore the shed down. So, because he knew what was going on. So, I mean, that's the only other thing like the Pugwedgies, I think there was it might've been another little story here of, that I seen reading in a book that was kind of like similar to the Pugwedgies.
That's pretty wild. Have you ever heard of ultra-terrestrials by any chance? I think they may be cryptids instead of extraterrestrial.
I've heard it, but I'm not familiar with it.
I did a show a while back. I think it was last year or something. I'll link it or put it in the little card thing up above. But so you guys watching this back later can check it out. But it was a really crazy story. It came from Pikeville, Kentucky. This whole thing originated around Pikeville. And I think there's a lot of stuff going on in Pikeville anyway. It seems like a, pretty creepy place. Kentucky as a whole is creepy. We have a lot of stuff going on. But these ultra-terrestrials were not like little grays or any type of alien that, we hear about or familiar with. They were more like little kid-type creatures. I think they were probably around 2 to 3 foot tall. Mm-hmm. And this person believed that they were living in a mine shaft nearby on his property. And they were coming out and harassing him at night, doing all this crazy stuff. It's pretty similar to the story that's on Netflix. Something about Steven something or another who allegedly captured footage of UFOs and aliens and stuff in his yard. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Well, but it's a crazy story.
Well, you think Moorhead, Kentucky. Okay. Moorhead is probably the weirdest part of Kentucky. They've had so many people come up missing in Moorhead than probably anywhere in the state of Kentucky. And what's so odd about that is that there's a couple cases, like there was a woman that was walking out the bank, okay, and the surveillance camera inside the bank caught her walking out, but the one outside did not catch her coming out, where she just disappeared, And then there was another case where there was a car that was up against a wall back of a store, and that this guy in his car was like missing for 6 months. And then all of a sudden he shows back up in town, and he has no recollection of what happened. There was another story where guys were putting on a roof, and there was this woman running down, I think she was jogging down the road by the woods. And then all of a sudden, she's screaming, and they see these bright lights and, stuff out in the woods there, like she was abducted, and no one ever heard from her again. Just a lot of weird things.
That one.
Yeah. And NASA has a conservatory that they built down there, and it's like, why would they build a telescope down there of all places? And then there's supposed to have been a couple of UFO crashes, that took place there in Kentucky, where they have live cameras on the spots there. And then you take Danube National Forest. Here's a national forest that no Native American would ever step foot in, because they felt how evil this was. And the amount of Dogman sightings and Bigfoot sightings coming out there. I mean, that's a scary place. We were there doing an investigation, and Flare actually was with us. The thermal imaging company was there with us with one of their new handheld flares. And there was an opening there, and we were on the side of the road, and we saw this large object on the other side of the field, and it was kneeled down. And what was so neat about this flare, this new flare, it was able to tell the distance of the object, and it could give an estimate of what the height of the object was from the distance, which was really neat. And this thing was at 4 feet kneeling. Okay, and then it would stand up by the tree. And then we would walk out into the field, it would go back down, and then it would move away. So we're watching this thing on thermal. And I said, I'm going to go see what this thing is. So I'm running out into the field. Okay, and they have it on, we have it on tape on thermal, and I'm running out to this field in the middle of the dark. And I'm almost right up on this thing, and I didn't see it, but it stood up and walked away, and they measured that this thing was like 3 feet. I'm 6 foot. This thing was like 3 feet taller than I was. And what was so odd, I can't say it was odd, it was funny. This little kid, probably about 12 years old, is running next with me. He goes, I ain't scared. I ain't scared. Like I said, I'm one of these people. I'm going to go. I'm going to chase it. I'm going to see what it is, but it was, we never knew what it was, in there. And then there was another part where along the edge, of the tree line, if you go further down, you went into the lake there, and you see these like lights were just going along the edge there. And there's like no human could have done it because they would have fell off. There's so much weird stuff. And then there's like 3 trails. You have a lower one, a middle one, and a high one. So we were on the middle trail, and we were so far back into the woods. We came around the bend, and there was a deer there because I hit it with my flashlight. And the deer, there was a hedge there, and the deer jumped over the hedge. And I swear, I saw this large, hairy arm snatch this deer.
Oh, wow.
On the other side of the hedge. I didn't see the whole body, but I saw like an arm snatch this deer as it jumped over. And, it's weird. That place is really weird.
Oh, yeah. Kentucky as a whole is weird. Moorhead, I lived in Moorhead for 4 or 5 years. I pretty much grew up there because it was the nearest town where we could, where I'm from is very rural. So there wasn't a lot of shopping opportunities in my hometown. We'd always go to like Moorhead or something. And I've spent a lot of time there. I've heard a lot of crazy stories. I've seen UFOs there myself. I feel like I see them all over Kentucky anyway.
Right.
We have a lot of UFO culture here, very much. Lots of aliens.
My dad, grew up in Hazard, Kentucky, and they even talked about, the weird stuff, the night lights in the mountains of Hazard, Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Just odd stuff, and it's weird. Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, man. I tell you what, it's a strange place, man. Yeah,
it definitely is. And speaking of Kentucky, have you ever heard of the Pope Lick monster?
Yeah, the Pope Lick monster. That's a neat one. That's like the half man, half goat. That like lives under a trestle, the Trestle Bridge. Yeah. There's a lot of fake pictures out there, but
yeah,
it's another one of these like legends. A lot of people, they go out to the bridge there and they see it. Some say it's it's a sheep's head or more of a sheep body. Yeah, it's weird looking. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a peculiar creature. I actually have a couple friends who say that they saw it around Carter County, which is on the eastern side of Kentucky.
Right.
I personally, of course, have never seen it. I haven't seen that many cryptids, unfortunately for me, but I've heard stories about this thing, and I kind of feel like this one's probably legit, just based on what I've heard about it. That's
what Fishersville.
Yeah, I think so.
Fishersville, yeah, right outside of Louisville, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, where all that stuff takes place. Yeah, that's been a legend that's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And I got a friend actually that's going out there this coming weekend, and it's like, dude, stay off the bridge. Stay below it. You'll see it. You don't want to go on top of it.
Yeah. It seems like most of the monsters we have around here are bipedal creatures like the goat man and, you know, squatches and dogman and things like that. We don't have a lot of the cat type creatures. Like, for example, I think the Ozark howler, if you've ever heard of that, seems to maybe fall in the category of a feline type creature.
Yeah, more like a big cat.
Yeah, that one I think is really interesting. I don't know that much about the Ozark howler, but pretty interesting one. And then let's see, what are some others from? Well, have you ever heard of like a lizard man from Swamp?
You know, yeah. There was oh God, what was his name? Christopher Davis, I think, was the one that saw him. I'm trying to think. Yeah, Christopher Davis. He said it was like 7 feet, but I think was it Reed County or Lee County. Lee County. And the police thought he was making the story up, because he kind of did make a statement that he shot it when he really didn't. He talked about being 3 fingers, skelly, 3 red glowing eyes. But a lot of people has been seeing this. There's a guy by the name of Kenneth Orr saw it cross Highway 15 down there, and that was always been a big sighting area, of it in that main highway right there. So it's a legend, one of these town little legends and stuff, and then you have like the Bishopville monster, the Bishopville lizard man, which is right around the same area. And like some of these I think are all basically the same creature that they're seeing through South and North Carolina. It's probably the same thing.
I think so too. Yeah. I think a lot of times some types of cryptids, like I always thought possibly the Chupacabra and the Jersey Devil were similar type creatures. I don't know if I believe in a Chupacabra, although it's probably my favorite cryptid, or it used to be. What do you think about that? Do you think that possibly the Jersey Devil is something else we have a different name for?
No, the Jersey Devil is that's, man, it's hard to describe. I mean, what that particular creature is. It's supposed to have a horse's head, hoofs, wings, a tail. People, in the Pine Barrens have seen this thing, a ton of times. There's a lot of stories coming out. It goes back to the Reed, or I'm trying to think what the name of that family is. I think it's a Lead family, if I'm not mistaken. That took where this thing, was born, the 13th child, and as it, came out human, and it turned into, the little demon and flew out of the, the chimney, and everybody's been seeing it. But the thing about the Jersey Devil, all the sightings have pretty much been the same description of the creature. Chupacabra, the one in South America, I think is the real Chupacabra. This blue dog that they're seeing here in the States, it's a dog. It's not a Chupacabra.
Yeah.
it's a dog, and I laugh at Chupacabra sightings in America.
Yeah, I have kind of some sordid opinions about Chupacabras.
Yeah, I laugh at it. I really do. If the characteristics of it was what's seen in Puerto Rico, I could buy it. But a blue dog, and they give it the name the Chupacabra. It's just, I don't know. It's hard saying.
Yeah, I think it's really weird that it's weird what I think about the Chupacabra, actually, I should say, because I don't necessarily believe in a Chupacabra, but I believe there is something happening to livestock, and I've actually heard about it happening firsthand around Kentucky. I think around Nicholasville or Lexington. And I think that's
Right.
kind of cool. It's like maybe the Chupacabra is not real, but what is attacking these animals? Do you have any other cryptids you think might be responsible for that?
It could be anything. I mean, I'm not saying it could be anything. I mean, it could be a cryptid we just don't know anything about yet. We it hasn't been discovered. It hasn't been seen. I mean, it's drinking the blood, of the animals, and some of the cases where the whole organs and everything have turned to liquid, and it's sucked it all out that way. I mean, who knows? It could be alien related. I just the thing about canines, they're just not made to suckle. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So their mouth, their snout is just not made for that. When they're pups, it's a different thing because they're still growing. But I just don't see it. You would think that the teeth would be more in the front.
Yeah.
Then off the canines off to the side, and that means that their mouth would have to be. They could have a snout, but the opening of the mouth and everything would have to be smaller. It's hard to describe what I'm trying to say, but it's just when you see these blue dogs, it just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they can do it. Maybe they got a tongue or something that goes down and the body and does it.
Yeah. Once you think about the anatomical structure of a creature that would be able to literally suck everything out in liquid form from a larger animal or from like a goat or a cow, then it kind of starts to sound a little more unbelievable.
Well,
I think that's one of the reasons I probably don't buy into Chupacabra as much. And oddly enough, another popular, I think you would consider it a cryptid that I don't believe in, is the Mothman. What do you think about the Mothman?
I believe in the Mothman. I think there's something there. I really do. I think the Mothman could be something extraterrestrial. This is my theory on the Mothman. I mean, you take the Flatwood Monster in West Virginia. Okay, this is a case that happened, I think, like in '52, if I'm not mistaken. If you look at this creature as half flesh and blood and half like machine, and then they had the one or two close sightings that were real close to each other, and then that was it. There was nothing more of the Flatwood Monster. And then here comes in the 60s, with the Mothman. I think 66 was probably the first sighting by the 5 guys that were digging the grave. But then here almost 10 years later, okay, this creature comes out of nowhere. My theory is that the Mothman and the Flatwood Monster is the same creature. Okay, the Flatwood Monster was probably some type of hibernation device for this creature, and it was able to hide itself maybe in a cave or underground, and it was an incubator, and it took maybe 10 years for this thing to form, and it grew, and that's what we have, the Mothman. And there's a lot of characteristics of the Mothman being possibly extraterrestrial, so I don't know, it's a weird theory, but that's what makes things interesting. The weirder it is,
Exactly.
You have to have an open mind and look at different possibilities
Yeah.
of this stuff. I mean, you have to. You can't just ignore and only look at one view.
Yeah, well, I definitely believe that the Flatwoods Monster is real, and I absolutely agree that it was extraterrestrial. And I was lucky enough years ago to be able to start working on a documentary about the Flatwoods Monster. It was supposed to be for the History Channel. It didn't work out properly, but I did get to talk to a lot of people there. It was a really interesting experience because it seems like everybody there knows a story, they all firmly believe it. And it's to the point where to them, it's like common knowledge to the point that they're tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
And I got that a lot. There were a lot of people who were just like, "Ugh, not again." Who is this? History Channel?
Yeah.
No.
Small Town Monsters did a really good documentary on the Flatwood Monster. Really good one. They did a really good one on the Mothman. And the next one they got coming out is on the Beast of Bray Road, which is going to be tremendous. It's probably going to be their best that they have ever done. But, you know, these small towns, you know, they love it. I mean, it brings in revenue, you know, when they have their little festivals and stuff. But because the interest is there, everybody, you know, believes that, you know, these things exist. People have seen it. We've been out there, and where the silos are, and we were out there. There was 4 of us, and I'm not kidding. You could hear people on the radio in the woods, like they were like monitoring us, you know. I mean, which was really weird because you could hear them talk, you know. It's a weird place. You know, I've talked to people that had military contact there. You know, the people in that area swear that the military has an underground facility there in Point Pleasant. You know, who knows? You know, yeah, maybe because they know this thing is extraterrestrial, and that's why they're keeping tabs on it.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah.
So what are some other cryptids that maybe we didn't cover? Are there any other really good ones worth mentioning?
Well, the Dover Demon, that's a neat one. 17-year-old kid by the name of William Barnell, if I might say his name right. It was like April 21st, 1977, I think is when that sighting took place. And this kid gave a sworn affidavit to the Boston Globe that what he saw was was true. And he wasn't the only one seeing it. There was another 2 teenagers that actually seen it. People have been seeing this thing. It's like a little, you know, big-headed, skinny little creature, you know. They would see off the side of the road with, you know, kind of like glowing eyes. It's kind of neat. It's you know, it's one of these, like I said, it's like the Loveland Frogman or, you know, the Beast of Bray Road. It's like, you know, their little town's cryptid. You know, that one's a neat one. I'm trying to think. Well, the Jersey Devil, we already talked about that.
Thunderbirds. I like Thunderbirds.
Yeah, Thunderbirds. You know, here's the neat thing about Thunderbirds. Ohio's had a lot of sightings of Thunderbirds. Okay, a lot of sightings. And I had a woman last year who was at Alt Park in Cincinnati that saw one. And she said this thing was so low on the ground, she thought it was a plane until she actually saw it. And she drew a picture of it, really nice report on it. And if you read, or if you like Google Thunderbird sightings in Ohio, you'll find out there's about 10 really good ones that came from like Cincinnati up to the Dayton area where all these took place. So we were on a Dogman investigation out in Germantown, Ohio, and we came across these like large, I mean, these white mucus droppings along the riverbank there. Okay. And these things were probably like 2 feet wide and, you know, circumference. And I took pictures of them because they were just, I've never seen, you know, it looked like bird crap, literally looked like bird crap. And I sent them to Ken Gerhardt, you know, who wrote a book on Thunderbirds. And Ken sent it to a friend of his at the zoo who, you know, studies large birds and stuff. And he said, yeah, man, you can tell by the mucus that this is a bird dropping. And I'm not kidding. They were like this big, you know, in the same area where all these Thunderbird sightings were. We found like 6 of them along this bank. You know, it was weird, you know. And like I said, I've got pictures of them, and it's just, I mean, they look like large bird crab droppings.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. I
Yeah,
didn't
and
know that we had any, you know, around the area here. But I
Yeah.
have a friend in Alaska who I was talking to the other day, and I was asking her if she'd ever seen Dogman or Bigfoot or anything, because I know Alaska's, you know,
Right.
few and far between as far as civilization goes. And she said, no, I haven't seen anything like that, but I have seen a thunderbird. And she got to talking about it. Her and some friends saw one of these ginormous birds, and I started Googling it later just to see if, you know, there were many sightings in Alaska. And it turns out about the same time that she saw one, there were other reports from Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting. And I know somebody who once said that they saw a bird in a tree. And I think this was somewhere around the tri-state, around Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. And this bird was allegedly enormous. And we kind of thought maybe that was an albatross, got possibly lost somehow. But who knows? That could have been a thunderbird too, maybe like a baby one.
It could have been, you know, because like I said, we get a lot of thunderbird sightings here. We have turkey vultures here that are really huge also. My wife and I were driving down the road, and we saw, I swear to God, I thought it was a guy leaning up against a guardrail. And I'm not kidding. Because I noticed that people coming up the road, and the people that were in front of us were like slowing down. And there was a turkey vulture that was there off the side of the road. And this thing was every bit almost 4 feet. I'm not kidding. Every bit 4 feet standing up. And in Adams County, there's an area called Buzzard's Roost Rock, which is, there's this huge rock, kind of like Devil's Mountain almost, you know, and that's where all the buzzards hang out, and turkey vultures and things. And, you know, people there said they you know, you can drive down the road, and if they're eating in the middle of the road, they're not going to move for you because they're so freaking big.
Yeah.
And, you know, we actually had one on a different occasion. My wife and I were driving, and we actually had one literally come at our car, literally, I mean, like head on. And the wingspan was further across than our car was. I mean, this thing was huge. And I mean, I literally had to stop and swerve, or this thing would have came right through our windshield. I mean, and these are large turkey vultures. I've never seen them as large. I mean, it's like they're like as big as a child, you know, a 9 or 10-year-old. I mean, these things are freaking huge. And, you know, who's to say that there's not something out there that is much bigger?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, but the things of it is, you think you would find feathers, you know, of these things, you know, but there again, you know, things are stranger than fiction. Maybe, you know, there's people out cleaning evidence up. You just don't know, you know. I mean, you look at some of these, there's a video I seen on Facebook where this large bird, you know, literally picked a deer up. And this guy was hunting, and he was getting ready to shoot the deer in this open field, and this huge bird came and literally picked this deer up off the ground. And I mean, this thing was freaking huge, and you couldn't tell what type of bird it was. It came in so fast to grab this deer, and it took off with this deer. And this deer was probably every bit 120 pounds. You know, and it was able to lift this thing. This guy videotaped it, and he's like, man, what the hell was that? You know, ready to take the shot. And, you know, it's, but I love it. I mean, I love these little stories, you know.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's great.
So I guess that wraps up our cryptid talk tonight.
Yeah.
There was something else I want to throw in. We were talking about the other night, the dog monster demon creature in the wedding photo. I don't know if anybody in the comments.
Oh, yeah.
This is a pretty crazy picture. I thought I would share it with you all real quick because it's so interesting. Let me just pull it up here. And if you are familiar with it, maybe you have opinions. What do you think about it, Joedy? You think it's some kind of monster, or?
I think it's a demon. It's where people have like demons. Someone who's like really a demon or a bad person. They have and they have their demon in them, and that this wedding picture where this is his demon coming out. I mean, it's a weird picture. I mean, you look at that creature. I mean, look at the eyes. I mean, the eyes alone are just, it's spooky. I mean, it's a spooky picture, and like that, no one seen it when they were taking the pictures. No one's seen it when they were there. They go take the wedding picture, and then when they get the pictures, back from the photographer, there's this creature. I mean, the thing of it is, you don't even see the ears on this creature. You just see, the snout and the mouth open, and the evil in the eyes.
Yeah, that picture blows my mind. And my first thought was, what if a dog was running around in there and it kind of bounced up and just happened to photobomb at just the right time? But if you look at the picture pretty closely, you don't see anything protruding out from behind these two people in the picture. So that kind of tells me that it was not a dog, like a very excitable dog in the background.
Yeah, because this thing was years ago. This was probably over 10 years ago when this picture was taken. And I remember, this was on one of these paranormal shows, kind of like Sightings. I think it might have been, where they talked to the people, and they're like, man, we never seen this. I mean, this is the first time we saw it was when we got the pictures sent to us, by the photographer. And it's just, whatever this thing was, it was there. And, it was either a demon or a ghost or just something that was at the place where they had, where the wedding was held, or it's his inner demon coming out. It's, I would have divorced his ass on that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I think it is some kind of paranormal, supernatural entity attached to him, definitely.
Yeah, I think a judge would have okayed it. You wouldn't live with this.
Oh, wow. Lots of crazy stuff in the world. I guess we'll never figure it all out. Yeah. Thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. I always love having you on. It's such a fun time when you come on and talk about all this cool stuff. And hopefully we can do this again sometime. I don't know how you feel about ghosts or aliens, but maybe we can do one of those topics in the near future.
Great. We'll leave that bum Dave at home.
Yeah, he never showed up.
Maybe he had to work late and stuff, because he's on call a lot with his job, and there's a possibility he could have got it, could have been put on call and got called out and stuff. So anything's possible, but he's a bum until he apologizes.
We'll get him next time.
All right, you take care.
All righty. Have a great night. And thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you all. We had so many people tonight. It was crazy. It was awesome. Thank you all. I hope you subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. And please subscribe. You want to stick around. We're going to do some cool stuff in the future. So don't forget to also check out the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/paranormallycorrect, the same as the YouTube channel name. And I will see you guys next week. We'll have an awesome show again next Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So see you guys later.
All right.